Hi everybody and welcome to today's video. Today we're looking at a couple of items from Berlin Notebook. I have the notebook here and I have a sample of the ink, No.1, which is blue. So I noticed these guys on Instagram and love what they do. And we had a bit of a chat and we decided that it would be interesting if I took a look at these notebooks, showed them being used with fountain pens, and also a little look at the ink. So let's start with the notebook. So this is an interesting size. I've got a couple of comparisons here. So the first thing is a Field Notes sized notebook. This is the Pebble Stationery notebook. So you can see it's a considerably bit larger. Then I have something that is passport size here, which is once again, the Berlin notebook is larger. And here is A6. So you can see that it is bigger than A6. It's tall. It's about the same width as A6, but a little bit taller. So, you know, nice sort of interesting size. Just for comparison's sake, I have it here next to a A5 notebook, and you can see it's smaller. It's wide, like you can see there sort of the dimension in terms of how it compares to A6 as well. So what I like about this book is the simple design, nice sort of way of presenting the name there. On the back you get some basic information, and it says here, made using 100% recycled paper. Made in Berlin, and Berlin Notebook, funnily enough. There is a website, www.berlin-notebook.com. So yeah, check it out. These use recycled paper. Now the paper is slightly off-white, and it's a sort of, not, I wouldn't say it's got a grey paper, but it's sort of got that greyish sort of tinge to it. For comparison's sake, here it is with Rhodia regular paper. So you can see it's sort of got that sort of grey colour, typical of recycled paper. But this is apparently fountain pen friendly. So I have put it through a couple of little tests. I'm going to do a writing sample in here in a minute, but let's look at the ink. I should say it's staple bound, simple, basic design there with basic sort of rounded corners. There's this nice sort of hard, quite sturdy cardboard cover there. Okay, let's look at the ink. So as I said, this is blue. So here it is on Tomo River paper. So you can see there's sort of the shading of that blue, that lighter blue colour coming through there, the nice rich darker blue, and then some lovely sheen. It's a really nice blue, actually. It reminds me a little bit of a slightly more vibrant version of something like School Blue by Robert Oster, so that lighter shading particularly. And we have it here in the book itself. So this is Berlin Notebook No.1 Blue. So there you can see a good, demonstration of the colour. There it is alongside Oxford Blue by Diamine, Robert Oster Flaming Blue, and then for the paper's sake, I've tested a couple of other pens on here. Extra Fine Wingsung with Diamine Eclipse, Monteverde Smoke Noir in a very generous medium, Waterman Red in a Platinum Preppy, and Bay State Blue in a Jinhao 992. So, first thing we can notice about this paper is in the standard writing from standard fountain pens, there's only very, very minimal feathering. Really, that's actually performing pretty well, especially for recycled paper. It gets a little bit wayward when you put a lot of ink down, like in the swab there. But even like the little scribbles there, they perform relatively well. If we look at the back, there's actually a very small amount of bleeding only. Quite wet pens sort of tended to come through. The Berlin Blue does come through a little bit. The Noodler's Bay State Blue comes through, but a lot of these others perform relatively well. So I think as far as recycled paper go, this is a really good option for fountain pen use. And it's a nice size, as being slightly bigger than sort of Field Notes, and it's a sort of in-between size. It's actually pretty handy. I would suggest it's slightly smaller than B6. But yeah, really, really good size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write in this just on screen here with two pens. The first being my Faber-Castell E-Motion with a medium nib. This is inked with the Berlin Notebook No.1 Blue. And then I've got a Visconti Mirage here with a broad nib with Lamy Black. So this is just to see the paper in action as we go. with Berlin. Notebook #1 blue. We'll do a little scribble, we'll do a little crosshatch. Yeah. So the paper isn't super smooth. It's not a coated paper in any way. And so you do feel the pen on the page. And these pens both have relatively sort of smooth nibs. And this is Lamy Black, the Visconti Mirage. Oh, this is a broad. And the Faber-Castell here is a medium. This isn't paper you're going to get sheen on. As you could see, I'll show in a second, the difference between Tomoe River paper is, you know, the colours do look different. Where we lay down a swatch of both of the Berlin blue. But you can see here, you know, the ink dries, you know, not super quickly. These are relatively wet pens, but you know, it's not so bad. And as I said, there's very little feathering, and you know, realistically, very little bleed. That's quite wet, and that's putting down, you know, a large amount of fairly wet ink. But it performs relatively well. I think this is, as I said, a decent option for fountain pen use if you want to use recycled paper. I'm just looking at that the swatch again for sheen. I'll pull up both of these as a comparison. With the Tomoe River, you get a lot of sheen there. And then, awkward, you get very little on none on the Berlin Notebook on the swatch there of #1 blue. But this was the Berlin Notebook using recycled paper. I'm more than happy with this book. You know, you wouldn't want to be using big, super wet pens on it, but I think actually it does a pretty decent job. And the ink is really nice. I love that colour. I love that rich blue. I think it, you know, performs relatively nicely, and I think it looks great, and it feels really nice in the pen as well, and that's always something to consider. So I hope you found this video about the Berlin Notebook and the Berlin #1 blue ink, designed by Victor Walter, to be interesting and useful. I know I find these items rather interesting myself. So thank you for watching. Subscribe and like and all of that sort of stuff, and hit the notifications button if you want to stay up to date with the videos that I produce. Please feel free to get in touch using any of the platforms listed below. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at @the_offstage_me, or you can contact me on any of my videos here, or drop me an email, which is listed down below in the product description, in video description. If there's a product you think I should be looking at, or you know, a range of products or a brand, get in touch and let me know. If there's a way I'd like to support the channel by sponsoring a review or providing an item for review, and a big thank you to Berlin Notebook for providing these, then get in touch and let's see what we can do. In the meantime, enjoy your pens and your ink and your notebooks, and I'll talk to you later.